Charles Darwin. Born in February 12, 1809, died in April 19, 1882, age 73 years. 40 inspirational Charles Darwin quotes. 1. A man who dares to waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. 2. Animals, whom we have made our slaves, we do not like to consider our equal. 3. An American monkey, after getting drunk on brandy, would never touch it again, and thus is much wiser than most men. 4. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. It is those who know little, and not those who know much, who so positively assert that this or that problem will never be solved by science. 5. Man tends to increase at a greater rate than his means of subsistence. 6. The very essence of instinct is that it's followed independently of reason. 7. A man's friendships are one of the best measures of his worth. 8. At some future period, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate, and replace the savage races throughout the world. 9. I have called this principle, by which each slight variation, if useful, is preserved, by the term of natural selection. 10. In the long history of humankind, and animal kind, too, those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. 11. My mind seems to have become a kind of machine for grinding general laws out of large collections of facts. 12. To kill an error is as good a service as, and sometimes even better than, the establishing of a new truth or fact. 13. A moral being is one who is capable of reflecting on his past actions and their motives, of approving of some and disapproving of others. 14. False facts are highly injurious to the progress of science, for they often endure long, but false views, if supported by some evidence, do little harm, for everyone takes a salutary pleasure in proving their falseness. 15. I have tried lately to read Shakespeare, and found it so intolerably dull that it nauseated me. 16. It is a cursed evil to any man to become as absorbed in any subject as I am in mine. 17. On the ordinary view of each species having been independently created, we gain no scientific explanation. 18. We can allow satellites, planets, suns, universe, nay whole systems of universes, to be governed by laws, but the smallest insect, we wish to be created at once by special act. 19. A scientific man ought to have no wishes, no affections, a mere heart of stone. 20. How paramount the future is to the present when one is surrounded by children. 21. I love fools' experiments. I am always making them. 22. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. 23. The highest possible stage in moral culture is when we recognize that we ought to control our thoughts. 24. We must, however, acknowledge, as it seems to me, that man with all his noble qualities, still bears in his bodily frame the indelible stamp of his lowly origin. 25. I am turned into a sort of machine for observing facts and grinding out conclusions. 26. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. 27. Man is descended from a hairy-tailed quadruped, probably arboreal in its habits. 28. The mystery of the beginning of all things is insoluble by us, and I for one must be content to remain an agnostic. 29. But a plant on the edge of a desert is said to struggle for life against the drought, though more properly it should be said to be dependent upon the moisture. 30. What wretched doings come from the ardor of fame, the love of truth alone would never make one man attack another bitterly. 31. Sexual selection acts in a less rigorous manner than natural selection. The latter produces its effects by the life or death at all ages of the more or less successful individuals. 32. This preservation of favorable variations and the rejection of injurious variations, I call natural selection. 33. Unusual degree. This family became divided 8 generations. 34. I have deeply regretted that I did not proceed far enough at least to understand something of the great leading principles of mathematics, for men thus endowed seem to have an extra sense. 35. Origin of man now proved. Metaphysics must flourish. He who understand baboon would do more towards metaphysics than Locke. 36. It is no valid objection that science as yet throws no light on the far higher problem of the essence or origin of life. Who can explain what is the essence of the attraction of gravity? 37. How odd it is that anyone should not see that all observation must be for or against some view if it is to be of any service. 38. Such simple instincts as bees making a beehive could be sufficient to overthrow my whole theory. 39. What wretched doings come from the ardor of fame, the love of truth alone would never make one man attack another bitterly. 40. A grain in the balance will determine which individual shall live and which shall die, which variety or species shall increase in number, and which shall decrease, or finally become extinct.